Most people who try this hobby quit within the first few months. Their first fish dead, the tank gone cold in the garage, and they walk away certain they simply were not cut out for it. Here is the truth. It was almost never you. It was what they sold you on the very first day. The beginner shelf at a fish store is not built to help a beginner succeed. It is built to sell the most things that fail, the little kit that is too small, the bottles you will never need, the fish that die in a month, so that you come back and spend a little more each time. So today I am going to walk you through that first shopping trip honestly. 7 beginner buys that are robbing you blind, the ones draining your wallet and killing your fish, and then 5 that are worth every penny, the short list that actually keeps a tank alive. And the single best thing a beginner can buy is the exact opposite of what the store will steer you toward. My name is Isamu Yoshida, 3rd generation on the water, a koi keeper from the snow country of Niigata, taught by a father who kept fish for 50 years. He never set foot in a fish shop in his life, and his ponds outlived every gadget the modern world has invented since. Everything he knew he wrote into one notebook, and it holds a truth every beginner deserves to hear on day one. Keeping fish is simple. It is the selling of it that made it complicated. Because understand who designs that first trip. A shop does not grow rich selling you a healthy tank that runs itself for 10 years. It grows rich on the beginner who fails, the one who comes back for another kit, another bottle, another bag of fish to replace the ones that died. Your struggle is not a flaw in their business. For a great many of these products, your struggle is the business. Was this made to keep my fish alive, or to keep me coming back? I will count the 7 wasters down first, from the smallest to the one that does the most damage of all, the buy behind more dead beginner fish than anything else on the shelf. Then the 5 that are genuinely worth your money, up to the single best decision a new keeper can make. None of it is expensive. That is rather the point. Number 7. The bright gravel and the plastic castle. Every beginner's first cart has them. Neon blue, stones, a little sunken ship, a diver blowing bubbles, a skull with a jaw that opens. They are cheap fun, and they feel like the whole reason you wanted a tank. But understand, they do nothing for your fish. That colored gravel is dyed and inert. It feeds no plant and grows no good bacteria the way a living substrate does. The ornaments only collect waste in their hollows and grow algae on their faces, and the cheap ones can do real harm, sharp seams that tear fins, dyes and paints that have no business leaching into your water. Now, a smooth, genuinely aquarium-safe ornament for your fish to hide in is fine. Hiding places matter. But a cart loaded with painted plastic is money spent on a scene for you, not a home for them. Number 6 is sold as the easy way to grow plants, and it is the fastest way to foul a new tank. Number 6, the plant bulb. You have seen them by the register, a little dry bulb in a packet, a betta or a lush jungle printed on the front, promising that you just drop it in and a beautiful plant grows on its own. Here is what actually happens most of the time. The bulb does not grow, it rots. And in a small new tank with no established biology to handle it, one rotting bulb is a slow leak of waste and foulness that clouds your water and feeds algae while you wait and wait for a plant that is never coming. It is a lottery ticket dressed as a plant, and the odds are poor. If you want plants, and you should, and we will get to why, you buy a real, growing plant with roots and leaves already on it, not a dry gamble in a bag. Number 5 is the aisle where beginners spend the most and understand the least, the food. Number 5, the wall of fish food. A beginner stands in front of it and, meaning well, buys 3 or 4 different tubs, flakes, pellets, freeze-dried treats, a special color food, maybe a vacation block for good measure. and carries home a year's worth of feeding for a tank of 6 small fish. Here is the trouble. Fish food goes stale, so most of it is thrown out long before it is ever used. And far worse, all that food in the cupboard becomes food in the tank, because the beginner's deepest instinct is to feed and feed and feed again. Overfeeding is one of the surest ways to kill a new tank. The extra food rots, the water turns. One good quality staple, fed in a pinch once a day, or even every other day, is all a healthy tank needs. The rest of that wall is sold to your kindness. Do not let it fill your cart. But we are not even at the worst of them yet. The number one buy on this list, the single biggest mistake a beginner makes, is one that almost everyone watching has already done, or is about to. When I reach it, you will understand exactly why your first fish did not make it. It is coming. But first, a video can point at 12 buys. It cannot hold everything behind them, the exact tank size for your space, the right first fish, how to set the whole thing up in the correct order so that nothing dies, and the dozens of beginner mistakes I have never covered here. My father kept all of that in one notebook because a new tank goes wrong in a night and gives you no time to go searching. That notebook is now an e-book, every method, on your phone the moment you need it. Pay once and it is yours. The link is in the description, and I will not raise it again. Now, back to the cart. Number 4. The shelf of chemistry. This is where a nervous beginner does real damage, because it looks like responsibility. A bottle to raise your pH, a bottle to lower it, a clarifier to clear cloudy water, a tonic for this, a remedy for that, a whole cabinet of fixes for problems you do not yet have. Leave nearly all of it. Chasing a perfect pH number with those up and down bottles is one of the most dangerous things a beginner can do. Fish handle a steady, wrong number far better than a pH that lurches up and down every time you pour. The clarifier only clumps the symptom while the cause carries on. Almost every one of these bottles treats a number on a test instead of the fish. There is exactly one bottle in that aisle a beginner truly needs, and it waits for you on the worth it list. The rest is a chemistry set sold to your worry. Number 3 swims, and it is the friendliest trap in the whole store. Number 3. The fish that was sold to you as a cleaner. A beginner sets up a tank, sees a little algae, and the shop points them to a helper, a common pleco, a Chinese algae eater, a couple of fancy goldfish for the children. They are cheap, they are sold as easy, and they are a trap that grows. That little common pleco becomes a 1.5 foot of waste-making giant that no beginner tank can hold. The Chinese algae eater stops eating algae as it grows and turns on your other fish, rasping at their sides. Goldfish are cold water animals that grow large and foul water fast. As I have shown you before, they need far more room than anyone is ever told. You did not buy a cleaner, you bought an animal that will outgrow, outlast, or bully everything else you own. Always ask how big a fish gets before it goes in the bag, never after. Number 2 is the box that started the whole problem. Number 2. The all-in-one starter kit. The box with a tank, a light, a filter, and a lid, all together for one tidy price, and it feels like the sensible, grown-up way to begin. It is, in truth, where most beginners are set up to fail. The tank is almost always too small, and small water is the hardest water to keep alive, not the easiest. It swings hot and cold and foul in hours, punishing every beginner mistake instead of forgiving it. The light is usually too weak to grow a plant. The filter runs on those disposable cartridges, the ones you throw out every month, carrying your living bacteria out with them, resetting your tank toward the very danger that kills fish. You pay one price today and a steady stream of prices forever for a setup you will want to replace within the year. A kit tank on its own can be perfectly fine. It is the bundle, the weak filter, the small size, the cartridge trap that quietly sinks the beginner who trusted it. The last of the 7 is not a thing on a shelf at all. It is the mistake almost every beginner makes on that very first day. Number 1. Buying your fish on the first day. This is the one that empties more beginner tanks than everything else combined, and it is the reason your first fish most likely did not survive. Here is what no one at the counter tells you. A brand new tank is not ready for fish. The living bacteria that turn fish waste from poison into something harmless do not exist yet in new water. They take weeks to grow. So the beginner fills the tank on Saturday, is sold a bag of fish on the very same trip, and drops them into water with nothing to protect them. Within days, the fish's own waste becomes ammonia, invisible and lethal, and it burns them from the inside while the water looks perfectly clear. They call it new tank syndrome, and it is not bad luck. It is a tank that was never allowed to finish. The fix cost nothing but patience. You set the tank up, let it run, and let it grow its bacteria for a few weeks before a single fish goes in. Or you speed it along with a squeezed sponge from an established tank. The fish were never the first thing you should have bought. They were the last. Number 5. A liquid test kit. Not the paper strips which lie cheaply, the liquid drops in the little bottles that tell the truth. This is the one bottle from that whole chemistry aisle a beginner genuinely needs, and it is the single most skipped purchase in the hobby because it is dull and it hides on the bottom shelf. But it is the only tool that lets you see the invisible killer we just spoke of. It reads the ammonia and the nitrite your eyes never can, and it tells you, days ahead, whether your tank is safe to add fish to and safe to keep them in. For the price of one bag of fish, it is the eyes that keep every fish alive after. If a beginner bought a single thing from this entire video, I would want it to be this one. And before number 4, now that we are on to the things worth buying, do one small thing for me. Subscribe, not for my sake, but because the next beginner is about to walk into that store and fill a cart with the 7. And this is how they hear the short list first before their fish pay for it. And tell me below, what was the very first fish you ever bought, and did it live? Be honest. I read every one. Now on we go. Number 4. A quality heater. And if you keep tropical fish, this is not the place to save a few coins. Fish rarely die of the wrong temperature so much as the swing. Warm by day, cold by night, over and over, until their defenses wear thin and disease walks in the door. A good, steady heater holds the water even, and steady water is healthy water. If you want the trick the experienced keepers use, run 2 smaller heaters instead of 1 large one. 2 modest heaters are cheaper than 1 dead tank of fish. This is the rare corner of the store where the price is fair. Pay it. Number 3. A cheap sponge filter. A block of foam on a tube run by a small air pump sitting quietly in the corner, and it will outperform the fancy filter that came in your kit for a fraction of the price. A filter has one true job: to hold living bacteria and pass water slowly through them. A sponge does that better than almost anything made. It holds a vast colony. It never needs a cartridge. You simply rinse it in old tank water and put it back, and it cannot pull in a fry or a shrimp. If you saw my $10 filter build, you already know the whole secret. The filter was never the expensive machine. It was the living surface inside it, and a sponge is the cheapest, best surface there is. The next one is the one beginners fear the most, and it is the easiest of all. Number 2. Real living plants. Beginners avoid them out of fear, certain that live plants are difficult, delicate, doomed. The truth is the opposite. The right plants are nearly impossible to kill, and they do more for a new tank than any product in the store. A living plant drinks the very waste that poisons your fish, starves the algae of the food it needs, feeds oxygen into the water, and shelters your smallest and weakest, and the easiest of them ask almost nothing: a Java fern, or an anubias tied to a rock, a pothos with its leaves in the air and its roots in the water, a handful of floating plants across the top. If you saw my videos on the plants that filter a tank, you know they outclean a machine for a few dollars. Do not fear the living plant. It is the one thing in the store that works for you for free every hour of the day. Which brings us to the best decision a beginner can make, and it is the exact opposite of what the store will tell you. Number 1. A bigger tank than the one they sold you. This is the single best thing a new keeper can buy, and almost every beginner does the exact opposite because the store points them at the small one, the desktop cube, the little kit, and calls it beginner-friendly. It is the cruelest lie in the shop. Small water is not easier, it is far, far harder. Here is why, and it is the whole reason so many first tanks fail. Every beginner mistake is a mistake of concentration. A little too much food, a fish that died unseen, a heater that stuck. In a tiny tank, that mistake is undiluted, and the water can turn from safe to deadly between breakfast and supper. In a larger tank, the very same mistake is spread thin across far more water and barely moves the needle. A big tank is patient. It gives you time to notice, time to learn, time to fix a thing before it becomes a funeral. It forgives the beginner where a small one punishes. So do not start with the little cube they recommend. Start at 20 gallons, more if you can. It costs a little more at the counter once, and it saves you the fish, the bottles, the second kit, and the heartbreak many times over. The store sold you small because small fails and failure brings you back. The bigger tank is the one purchase that quietly makes every other thing on this worth-it list work. Buy it first and buy it once. So there are your 12. The 7 robbing you blind, the bright gravel and plastic castle, the plant bulb, the wall of fancy food, the shelf of chemistry, the cleaner fish that becomes a monster, the all-in-one starter kit, and the fish bought on day 1. Leave every one of them. And the 5 worth every penny: a liquid test kit, a good heater, a cheap sponge filter, real living plants, and above all, a bigger tank than they tried to sell you. Skip the 7, spend on the 5. Skip the 7, spend on the 5, and you will keep the fish that the first cart would have killed. Now tell me below, which of the 7 did you buy on your first trip? We all bought at least one. And if this would have saved you money and heartache when you started, send it to someone about to set up their very first tank.